Time now for our international press review in the papers. Clovis Casali is here. Where are you starting today?
Let's start with French paper Libération, who's focused on one man, and that's Bernard Madoff, the Wall Street guru who deceived the whole world of finance, we're told. We're talking here of 500 million euros in losses. In France alone, nearly 10% of the victims, let's call them that way, are small investors. Madoff's wrongdoings affected all types of people, celebrities including Steven Spielberg, Elie Wiesel. And Libération's reporter met with several of these investors who say that Madoff had a special technique to lure them. What he did, he had the reputation of being very picky. He would refuse customers and clients, and those who did enter this very select circle felt privileged. Worth noticing that he actually conned very own friends of his. Take Richard Spring, this 73-year-old former trader, has known Madoff for over 40 years. They shared a helicopter in the 70s to go to work together. Well, this man has lost 95% of his wealth, believed to be worth of $11 million. Not surprising, he says he's now in a state of utter shock.
So they shared a helicopter. You and I once shared a taxi, but I assure you I would never ever con you, Clovis. What's next?
Let's move on to Greece. Swiss newspaper Le Temps wonders if the anger will spread. We're of course talking about the riots. It's the wish of the demonstrators who've called other European youths to take it to the streets. They feel they're all in the same boat. One interesting figure is that in the European Union, 38.5% of the unemployed are young people. So Le Temps questions sociologists to kind of understand what's going on here, and these sociologists don't believe the anger can spread. Why? Though this generation is stressed out and frustrated, youths define themselves nowadays as individuals first and foremost. They don't really care about political change, they only care for their own future, instead of wanting political change.
Of course, kids on the streets here in France, of course, about education reform, but you could argue, as you've just said, it's a self-interest rather than a global interest, because they're concerned about their own school careers, I suppose.
Exactly, and in France it's specifically for this measure, for these reforms in the lycée.
And some people suggesting a link, but really there doesn't seem to be any
really
link at all. Okay, what's next?
Let's move on to Russia and the state of democracy with the Moscow Times that has an interesting, rather alarming opinion piece. Don't talk to strangers or foreigners, writes a political analyst called Kiselyov. The first sentence says it all. Under a new amendment to the law on treason sent for approval to the Duma, the author of this article could get 12 to 20 years in prison because the definition of an act of treason is so loosely defined by this new amendment that prosecutors can interpret it in any way they want. Human rights advocates are appalled, and so is the author. And in particular, with this mention of suspicious contact with a foreigner, it reminds him of the Soviet era, when it was strictly forbidden to talk to foreign diplomats or journalists, and he points the finger at Vladimir Putin. He says, and I quote, "Putin is like a steamroller gaining speed and force on a downhill slope."
It's worth noting this is a Russian newspaper criticising the Russian government, so obviously
rather rare.
The voice of democracy maybe is getting louder. I don't know, what is that suggesting something? I'm not sure, but it's interesting that it's a Russian paper making that
can only be positive.
Okay, what's next, my friend?
Let's talk L'Équipe that takes a look at Michael Jordan, probably the greatest basketballer of all times. Well, the former Chicago Bulls star is not the best of all bosses, it seems. He's better with the ball than on the bench. He's now the owner, or the co-owner of the Charlotte Bobcats. But the team isn't doing well at all. They're not tipped to making it to the playoffs, and many blame Jordan. Jordan picked most of the players, but we were told he seems to be often changing his mind, and apparently he's never physically with the team.
It's the old problem, a great player doesn't necessarily make a great manager. And one thing that you and I should note. There we go. Clovis, thank you very much. We need to leave it there. That was our international press review. You are Team France Fan Cat. Stay with us.